Okay, welcome to this workshop series on healing for positive manifestation. My name is Yvonne Stein, for those of you who were not aware of that. There are basically 4 separate workshops in this series, and each will build upon the previous workshop. So we're going to start with workshop number 1, and we'll build a foundation of how and why we manifest. So workshop number 1, of course, is positive manifestation. Workshop number 2 is going to focus on breaking control dramas, and you'll find out the importance of that as we get into this other board over here. When we get that completed, you'll see why breaking control dramas is one of the most important things you'll want to learn. Number 3 is learning from your experiences. And in that one, we will show you how to learn the lesson in every experience you have in life, which that's all life is about, is the lessons. And if we learn them, we can transcend and go on and manifest better things. Number 4 will be manifesting your thoughts. And we will help reprogram some of the thinking patterns to help you manifest more positively. First, let's talk about why we are trying to manifest. You know, people often focus on a specific manifestation need, such as material wealth, physical healing, spiritual gifts, or maybe even the ideal relationship. I mean, you've heard all these, right? This is what people want in life. But what we're really trying to manifest is core freedom. I mean, if you balance, you can do anything you want, whenever you want, because you can manifest as you desire. So, in other words, the ability to experience life as we choose, rather than on somebody else's agenda. If you already have a good handle on positive manifestation, these workshops will help you become a master at it. And if you are already a master at manifestation, then these will help make you a PhD. I've used these techniques for years, and people that know me are aware of what I've been able to manifest in my life. But the greatest thing I've been able to manifest is total sense of inner peace. I don't worry about anything. Nothing gets to me. I wish everybody could have that feeling. Okay, we're going to start with some basic concepts and then rapidly expand on those concepts. Unlike most workshops of a spiritual, self-help, or motivational nature, this one will include a very, very little mathematics. But don't worry, there's no quiz at the end. And I guess we'll just get started then. All right, let's start with a definition of metaphysics, because it's a term that's often confused or something that is important to know. It's of Greek origin, and it's all things after the physics. All physics and metaphysics relationships involve energy transfer. Every action and all forms of life are sustained by energy. I mean, air has energy in it. Our skin wouldn't hold together if there wasn't energy. We wouldn't be able to think. We wouldn't have thoughts. And so energy is obviously the precursor to all life. Without energy, there can be no matter, people, plants, light, air, etc. So metaphysics basically is everything that physics can explain. Thought transmission, out-of-body experiences, you could say ghosts fall in that category, but what we're really talking about is use of your human soul power and to help transform your life. Energy, mass, consciousness. I said we're going to get into a little bit of math, and I meant a very little math, so don't. This is a little bit unusual for a spiritual or motivational workshop, but I find it's important. We're going to start with the equation, Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared. And you wouldn't think that this has anything to do with what we're going to discuss today, but obviously energy is mass times the speed of light squared. And the most important thing about this equation is that all mass contains consciousness. All right? Now, consciousness does not necessarily mean thought. All mass does not think, but it does have memory. And we were just talking about that a few minutes ago, how it doesn't matter if this table, which is made out of wood, that wood came from some forest. That forest had some history. How it was processed, whether it was run through a sawmill, whether it was carved by hand, all go into the consciousness of that wood. And so carpet, even though it looks synthetic, it came from something originally. So the more it's processed, which oftentimes we hear about food, the less significant importance energy it maintains. So the raw materials, hand-carved goods, would have a different energy than something that's processed through a factory. Okay. It can have information, memory, purpose, or thought, depending on where that energy is harnessed and where it's stored. What kind of entity, whether it's a human or animal or plant or an inanimate object like chairs. All right, every cell and every molecule contains consciousness, and therefore it's programmed with some information, and it also has polarity. That information can be of a positive nature or a negative nature. And we're going to be focusing a lot on polarity in this, and I'll show you why in a little while. So long durations of negative programming can manifest into physical ailments. I think we all have probably come aware of that if you've had a lot of negative experiences in your life or negative thoughts, you can manifest physical ailments from that, as well as manifest physical events from that. Let's see. Self-healing must start with reprogramming your energy, which results in healing the cells and molecules. So you start with your consciousness, and eventually that reprograms the physical cells themselves. All right, so why are we balancing? Balance is the same as growth, because out of balance you grow and you also heal, which in another term is harmonization. And so why do we want to do that? I mean, everybody can imagine that, you're going to feel better, you're going to be able to manifest better things. But there's actually a mathematical equation to this which will help put it into some perspective. So life becomes easier, less pain, more positive, inner peace, core freedom. So harmonization, the equation on this one is n squared. All right, that's the most powerful equation you're going to know in the metaphysical world. Okay, n is the number of people harmonizing. So obviously you got n equals 1, which is one person in balance, say, and you got n squared, of course, is going to equal 1. And what you're going to find out as you see n equals 2, n squared equals 4, and say n equals 8, n squared equals 64. All right, so two people harmonizing have 4 times the energy. All right, this is why we're trying to get along in the world. This is why we're trying to harmonize with at least one other person, and it is the sole purpose for relationships, to try to achieve harmonization with another being. Okay, now here's well, I won't say it's a problem, but this is where people are getting hung up. Say you're not completely balanced. All right, so let's say you're only 50% balanced. N equals 0.5, n squared equals 0. All right, now you see the problem. If you're not completely balanced and harmonized, then you're actually hurting yourself, because you don't even have 1 times your own power to use to manifest or to heal or anything else in your life. Obviously, if you have 2 people who are half balanced, then maybe they have, you add it 0.5, you get n equals 1, and you get 2 people who are actually only manifesting at the power of 1 person. Okay, harmonization with one other person, like we said, is the cosmic purpose for all relationships. And this is marital relationships, business relationships, siblings, and twins. So if you're not harmonizing with your business partner, then you're not achieving a greater exponential energy use. But if you do, then it's no different than in a personal relationship. But business relationships do get personal, that you do share energy, and so your combined energy is important for the manifestation of the whole business. Okay, so N squared increases your ability to manifest. And again, to really harmonize, with two people harmonizing, N equals 2, the true concept of harmonization is you'd have to release all your fears of somebody actually reading all of your thoughts. If you were telepathic and the person knew everything that you knew and you could see your thoughts, then you're truly achieving N equals 2. So we know that not very many relationships are at that level. But that is the purpose for them, is to try to achieve those levels. And, we all know people who they know when their spouse does something, or they can feel that their spouse is trying to get a hold of them, or, there are people out there who do that. But I'm not sure they do it at the full harmonization level that we're talking about. Okay, so group harmonization, or what I call a social memory complex, is complete shared thought. In other words, we're talking about N in the higher levels of, N greater than 2. And, N could be 1 million on some level in the universe. And my belief is that they are at those levels, and that's how they can manifest things such as solar systems and other amazing things on the planet, or on the universe. So a large enough number of beings together has an exponential amount of power and energy to use to manifest. And increasing levels of N squared energy utilization is what I'd hope we could see in our lifetime. More than just N equals 2, I'd like to see something like this in our lifetime. Okay, true harmonization, again, requires healing, clearing your blockages, so there's no fear, judgment, and revealing all of your thoughts, memories, consciousness with the other person. No secrets. So we all know about balance. This is why we want to balance. Now let's talk about the things that we can balance, or that we know are things that can be balanced. And everybody knows about mind, body, spirit. I mean, it's a very common term that's used. And then we've got emotional, physical, spiritual, and material, because the mind, body, spirit doesn't really take into account the material world that we tend to live in. So a lot of people break it out into the 4 so that material is separate. And obviously, emotional balance includes healing your past, healing your issues with self-love, and reprogramming your thoughts. Physical balance might include, improving how you eat, exercising, environmental exposures, and how much risk you're willing to take on a physical level. Some people base jump, some people skydive. They have higher risks than going probably, well, maybe not than driving around town, but anyway, you can get the point, is that one of the things to balance is how much risk you need to take versus how much risk you're willing to take. Spiritual balance includes clearing blockages, increasing your polarity. And again, in this chart here, we're going to show how important polarity is. And increasing it in either direction can help you manifest. Learning from your experiences, centering, meditation, and finding inner peace. On the material level, of course, having a good perspective on your needs is important, so that you can manifest a balanced material world. Having an enjoyable job, and harmonic goals. In other words, some people say, well, I'm going to win the lottery next week, and they don't. Well, I mean, was it realistic to be, just fantasizing about that, or were they really able to manifest that? And that's what you come down to, is it's important to have some harmonic and realistic goals when you're understanding manifestation. Okay, your emotional state affects all other aspects of balance. You can imagine why. We already talked about if you're traumatized emotionally, you program your physical body, so obviously you're affecting your health. If you're emotional, if you have emotional issues, you can not do good work at your job, or have problems manifesting wealth. And of course, if you have emotional issues, you might not be willing to sit down long enough to work on your spiritual balance. So emotional is important for all, it affects them all, but spiritual growth heals all aspects of balance. Now, I would not have known that had I not gone through this myself. but all I ever tried to do is achieve a higher level of spiritual growth. I didn't care about money. I didn't care about the spiritual gifts, and I wasn't concerned about anything else but becoming a better person. And through that process, everything else happened by itself, which was kind of a revelation to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I don't really have to think about money as much as, if we're taught. I don't have to think about money at all. And that was a total revelation. Okay. So then we have the key to balance is learning how to apply all four aspects of balance into everything that you do, obviously. We know that. That's what balance is really about, so that whenever you do anything, you take into account everything that's involved in balance. All right, now we're going to get into the chakras a little bit, because the chakras are important. And there is a sheet that you have. Everybody should have this page in their information. And I will say this, you could spend probably 2 to 4 hours just talking about the chakras, so we aren't going to spend a lot of time talking about the chakras. Some people believe there are a lot of chakras more than what I'm going to talk about, and it's not so important as the basic ones are the 7. They go from the base of the spine to the top of the head, and then often people will talk about the other 5 for a total of 12, and my understanding of those is that they extend outside of your body to different levels above you, or into the universe, you could even say. All right, the most important ones we'll talk about are the first 7. And we'll talk about the root chakra, which is the base of your spine. And it's got a color, it's got a astrological sign, they've got tones, they've got symbols, they've got virtually anything you can think of. Each chakra has something unique. So each chakra has a separate tone, each chakra has a separate color, and so forth. And the most important things to know about the chakras is that that's where energy comes into our body from. So when it comes through us, and it comes through our chakras, the ones that it comes through more powerfully are the ones we rely on. And that's also, they have physical and emotional and addictive concepts. Obviously, the physical relationships it has to your tailbone, your legs, your feet, sexual organs, and overall vitality. The emotional or psycho-emotional relationships include survival, safety, physical strength, and the ability to ground yourself. So for people that have issues with safety, physical strength, and ability to ground themselves, probably their chakra, or base chakra or root chakra is closed more than it should be. Okay? Now, you can have addictions and problems if those chakras are closed. Those include the use of physical force and exercise to resolve issues. Okay? Now, that may be that your base chakra is open. In other words, you're using that force because you can't deal with the issues that are coming through other chakras. So you're using your base chakra. The spleen chakra, which is orange, is right below the navel. And again, you've got the sign of water, the astrological signs, and of course the physical relationships are spleen, ovaries, adrenal, uterus, kidney, urinary tract. And of course, the psycho-emotional relationships are feelings, emotional needs, reproductivity, intimacy, and warmth. So basically, you can see by the emotional relationships that somebody who expresses a lot of feelings has an open chakra, and the second chakra is very open, and somebody who can't express feelings has it closed. Okay. Solar plexus chakra, which is yellow, is confidence, willpower, control, mental energy, decision making. And you can see that you can be compulsive and addictive by having issues with that chakra. People who are confident and controlling are operating out of their solar plexus chakra. All right, heart chakra, obviously love, relationships are compassion, trust, ability to give, open to change and ideas. The throat chakra is your wisdom chakra and also your communication chakra. And again, you got your third eye chakra, which most people are familiar with, psychic ability and visualization and awareness. But these are some of the things we're talking about. Chakras are aligned with the nervous system, conduit of life. If they're all open, and I would say equally open, then you're going to be balanced. Okay? And what we're going to find out is what happens when you're not balanced and you're relying on certain ones versus other ones.
So that's what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to get into that, as a matter of fact, really quickly right now. The chakra colors mimic the light spectrum and rainbows, which is nature's way of trying to help us realize that there's something important to those colors and the sequence of those colors. Codependencies and attractive forces. Take out the one that has the people on it. I'm going to try to quickly see if this board will erase. How about that? Okay. I'm going to leave the end squared up here because that is a... All right. So I'm going to draw some figures up here, so it'll be a little... Just bear with me a second. And we're going to find out... Hopefully I can do this relatively. Not bad.
All right.
Let's see if I can do that 3 times. That's what needs to be done. All right, and one more time. Okay. Well, they're not really equal, but all right. So we're going to show you. This is very generalization. It's not meant to depict anybody in this room necessarily. But let's say that one of these is a male figure and one of them is a female. And you can write that on your sheet. And this is what's going to happen when we combine the two. Because remember, one of the things that most people don't realize is that besides trying to achieve core freedom since the time we were born, we're trying to achieve balance. And that's happening on a level that most people don't even realize. It's just happening. We're just naturally attracted to balance. So let's say on a male, if we look at the chakra chart, we're going to say, okay, since the root chakra is primarily physical strength, I guess we can call that a male trait. Is that everybody acceptable with that? More of a male trait? All right, so let's make the root chakra on the male large and the female is smaller. Okay, spleen chakra, which is your feeling center. That's emotions. Well, I would have to say that's more of a feminine trait. So we'll say that the woman has more open spleen chakra, and there's another reason for that. Because the spleen chakra is responsible for reproduction. So by default, a woman, because she can give birth, has to have her reproductive chakra open from the time she's born. A man does not. So that's one of the reasons we as men are trained to actually close that down. Don't show feeling. Don't show weaknesses. Okay, so by society and by growth, we're taught to do this. It's not necessarily that way by birth. Okay, the solar plexus chakra, control, confidence, decision-making, but really it's the control chakra. So, and I would have to say that men are a little more controlling than women. I know that not everybody would agree with me. Okay, so the third chakra we're going to make larger on the man and smaller on the woman. Okay, and then the heart chakra. Well, guess who's more compassionate and able to express love? I guess we can say that's pretty much a feminine trait in most cases. All right, so the woman's heart chakra and the man's heart chakra. And you know what? It really doesn't matter about the rest of them. Even though we can say women are often more intuitive, so we'll make the woman's third eye chakra larger than the man's. And, you know, as far as the throat chakra, which is communication, if we took a statistical number of how many male speakers there are in the world versus female, it's not representative of a woman's ability to communicate, but it is more common that the men are the leaders and speakers. So for this exercise, we'll just say, okay, let's make the men's a little bit larger than the woman's. All right, now, this is why where opposites attract. Okay, we're constantly seeking balance, and we don't even know it. So we meet somebody and we go, I like them. I don't know why. And what you find is that if you did this to your relationship with somebody in your life or somebody you used to know, you'd find that this is pretty much what happens. So what we achieve is together we achieve a place where all chakras feel more open. Because what we don't have, our partner provides. Seventh one is the gateway, and it's not as important for your personality issues. Okay, so what often happens in relationships, and this is why a lot of relationships don't last, at least haven't lasted in our recent history, is because two people are attracted to each other to become balanced. And then somewhere along the line, one of the people, let's take the female for instance, gains more confidence. All of a sudden it throws things out of balance. It threatens the balance. Okay, and the people don't understand why, because they were never taught this. They don't understand that balance should not be threatening. Obviously, if the woman's third chakra, which is control and decision-making and confidence, opens up, the man's would have to adjust accordingly. He would have to maybe have his feeling center open up more, or his heart chakra open up more, probably to keep the balance maintained. Okay? Ideally, we wouldn't get into a relationship until we were at this level. Okay? And that's the ideal goal, is to balance yourself so that when you come into a relationship with another balanced person, you don't have the codependencies, because this is codependency. You don't feel whole without the other person, that's codependency. You don't have balance in yourself, you're relying on somebody else to provide half of it, that's codependency. Okay, it doesn't have to be a 50-50 issue, but as you can see by just the male-female relationship issues, it most likely is in a lot of the cases. Okay, so we have, again, we talked about balancing mind, body, spirit. We talked about now balancing the chakras. Which chakra do you rely on? I mean, based on that chakra chart, you could probably see. If you know yourself well enough, you could say, yeah, well, I'm very confident, I'm very good at decision making, I'm very strong physically, or I'm a very feeling and compassionate person, or I rely on my intuition. Okay, so you can see what chakras you might rely on and which chakras you might be weak on. Now, one of the things that can happen is they can open and close. Okay, they can open and close based on your emotional state. You get into a position of fear, all of a sudden your base chakra, root chakra opens up, and you got your physical attributes there to protect you. And you also might close down your heart if you're hurt by somebody. Okay, so they fluctuate all the time. And having them stay in a balanced state all the time requires releasing pretty much all your fears and addictions and things that close them down. Okay, there's also people out there who will work on people energy-wise and open up their chakras for them. You've heard, I'm sure people have heard this. And that's great if the people are ready to experience the emotions that are going to come out of those chakras. All right, we close down these chakras because we've had to experience pain. If somebody's had hurt feelings a lot, they may close down their feeling center. And if they've been told they don't, they're not confident and they don't have any abilities to make decisions, they may close down their control center or their third chakra. So if somebody opens that up, energy-wise or any other way, a flood of information can come out of there, and oftentimes people are not prepared to deal with it. They don't have the tools, which is what we're going to go through in these workshops. And thus they can have emotional outbursts. And, it's interesting because the people that are opening up the chakras think they're doing great help to these people. And ultimately, if they can't maintain it, they just close them down anyway, as soon as they get back to their normal state. Okay, then we also have male and female energy. Some people may know this already, but the left side of your body is your feminine side. The right side is your masculine side. The left side, you receive energy. The right side, you send energy. So you can have issues with one side of your body. I mean, I had issues with my left side of my body. So my guess is that I was shutting down my feminine side. Okay, now it doesn't necessarily have to mean that, but that's one of the ways you can look at other areas of balance. We already talked about the second chakra being activated from birth on a female because it's your reproductive chakra. And indeed, I've heard, and I don't have a personal experience with this, but I've heard that some women during childbirth have psychic episodes because the chakra's got to be wide open, and having your chakras way open, brings in all the powers. And so, women have had unusual experiences during childbirth as a result of that. Okay, so now let's go on to what we call comfort zones. In the process of growth, in the process of balancing, what I've found is that you get downtime during your spiritual evolution. Now, some people, and some people even in this room, have said, where's the downtime? Downtime doesn't necessarily have to be walk through the flowers, but we're all given time to absorb the growth that we've experienced, as well as prepare for the new challenges. And most people would say it's not enough time. Yeah, give me more downtime. I'd like that. But, that's just the way it works. And then there's something I call the leapfrog, because we're constantly either growing together or apart. There's no such thing as really growing the same level all the time. So one of the things is that you will find through spiritual growth or through your evolution into balance is that you come into contact with people. They're meant to be with you because of where you're at that moment. And then one of you grows and goes to a different level. And then you meet different people. And so it's constantly, like this your whole life. If you stayed with the same people all the time, that would be great. But I think what I've found is that once you reach a certain level, that's more capable of doing that, is easier than when you're going through the process of growth. Because as you're growing, not everybody around you is going to be growing also. And so you would demanifest them and manifest new people. So that's what I call the leapfrog. So the stability or longevity in any relationship occurs when both people have achieved a level of balance within themselves, which enables them to harmonize and grow in the same direction, not necessarily at the same rate. Okay, now we're going to talk about the fundamentals of balance. And that's where we're going to get over into this chart. And everybody should have this, a blank chart. Looks something like this. Of course, I've got the completed one. And we're going to have you fill it in, because I always find that by actually writing this stuff down, it makes more, embeds deeper into you. Okay, so all life starts with energy. I think we can all agree on that. And what I'm going to show you is how to fill this in and what your life is like based on the energy that's coming. All right, so what do we do with energy? We program it through thoughts and actions. So we use energy for every thought and every action that we take. Okay? And that can be conscious and unconscious. All right? So in other words, you may take action that you wanted to take. You drive to work, get up in the morning, make breakfast. Those are conscious actions. Unconscious actions are obviously digesting your food. There's an infinite number of unconscious actions that we take. We do a lot of things that we don't even think about in a day. Take a drink of water. Most people don't really think about it. They just do it. I would say those are unconscious acts. So every thought and action is energy in. And the next step is we polarize that action or thought. So we have a polarity. Okay, and this is what is called the choice. All right, we have a choice on the polarity of any thought or action. I mean, nobody else does. I mean, if you're responsible for your thoughts and actions. So if you have a thought, whether it's about the driver in the next lane or whether it's about your spouse or children, those thoughts will be polarized, positive or negative. Okay? And an action. Action can be positive impact on somebody or negative impact on somebody, including yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what happens when you polarize your experience as negative. Okay, when you have your thoughts and actions are negative. Okay, first of all, you have to know what does it mean to program negative. Negative is about control. So you have to learn how to control on this side. All right? So in order to program negative and to grow negative, you learn how to control. On the positive side, it's how to release. And we'll talk more about the control and the release in the next workshops, but release is basically, guess what? Releasing all control. Okay? And that means relying on not just intuition, but the perfection of the universe and learning how to live in that style rather than trying to control things. Okay, and it takes time for some people. Okay, so here on the control side, we learn how to hold tight. Right? You know that if you're trying to control something, you're going to try to hang on to it. All right? And on this side, we're trying to learn how to let go. Okay, so on the negative side, we're going to wait on the middle here, and then we'll call this the neutral for now. You can put that in. I'm going to tell you more about that in a little while. I'll call that the neutral zone. You'll get familiar with that term. Okay, so let's talk about the control dramas. There are only 4 control dramas. And I learned that from a book called The Celestine Prophecy, and I hadn't heard it before that, but I've come to understand them, and when we talk about breaking control dramas, you'll see very clearly why there's only 4, and there only needs to be 4. And they are aloof, poor me, intimidator, and interrogator. Okay. All right, so in order to master control, you need to master these 4 control dramas. And I'm sure that some of you are recognizing already people that you know that use some of these. All right, and on this side, of course, you're an energy taker. Okay? And you're manipulative. All right, energy taker. On this side is, we'll try to appear a little more information. A negative person is service to self. Okay, when you're negative, you're controlling, and you're working on only what you need and want. So this is service to self. And on this side, it's a energy flows in a pyramid. Okay? In other words, service to self means, on this side, you're controlling people for energy. This is all about energy. Interaction with people is all about energy. Again, Celestine Prophecy, you can read more about that. So the question is, are you trying to take energy from people, or are you trying to give energy to people? And on the negative side, you're always trying to take energy from people. The person at the top of the pyramid takes energy from everybody underneath them. In other words, this person here is controlling the people underneath them, and they in turn control people underneath them, and the energy flows up. This is the corporate world. This is government. I mean, this is why some of them are so powerful. Now, it doesn't have to work like this. I mean, there can be positive corporations, and there are positive corporations. But anyway, on this side, and the irony of this is that somebody at the top of the pyramid may think they're really at the top, but they aren't. It's like anytime you think you're the toughest kid on the block, you find out, oh, there was another tougher kid. It's the same process here. There's always going to be something more powerful than you think you're the most powerful. Okay, so service to self, energy flows up. Of course, on this side, guess what? Service to others. That's no surprise, probably. Service to others, and again, you're an energy giver. And the reason you can be an energy giver is because you don't take energy from other people, but you draw it from the divine source. And the way you do that is you learn how to open up your chakras and balance, and then the energy can draw the energy through you, and then you have infinite amount of energy to do with whatever you want. Again, achieving the levels of n squared that we talked about. So, if you don't have to rely on others for your energy, then obviously you don't need to control them. You can get all the energy you need through whatever everybody calls it something else, but the higher source is one, the divine source, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. Okay, on this side, how do you release? Well, you got to learn to be more loving. Okay, you're going to use, now awareness I'm going to put over here, but obviously when you're aware of control dramas, you can use them, use that awareness to enhance your ability to control. So awareness, understanding, growth and healing. All right, so as you become more aware, then you have an understanding of that awareness, healing and growth are the result. Okay, and again, these can be applied over there as well. If you understand control dramas, then you can say you could grow more into the use of the control dramas. Healing is relative to both sides, but you can heal on the negative side as well. I mean, in fact, some of you may know or have heard, there are psychics and healers on this side as well as this side. Not all psychics and healers and people in the spiritual world are working on a positive realm. A lot of them are trying to control and use their gifts for a lot of different purposes. Okay, so on this side, of course, we have an energy giver. We already talked about that. And you are supportive. True support, most people don't have a good handle on what it means to be truly supportive. But on this side, you are supportive because you're giving energy in various ways, help, consciousness, verbal, workshops. That's energy giver. Okay, and we're going to put down here, just so you know what it takes to be a controlling person, you have to have your heart chakra closed. And this is ironic, but I know a lot of people who have had heart surgery who are also very controlling. So there's your physical consequences. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have it closed the whole time, but having it closed the whole time helps you master this side. Because you can't control people and cause them pain and have your heart chakra open. Okay, again over here, heart chakra, guess what? You know the answer. Heart chakra is open, right? Okay, now let's talk about what happens when you're in the neutral zone. All right, the first thing is here you learn how to control. Here you're going to learn how to release. Here the answer is don't change. Because unfortunately, most people have no clue that this is important, and most people are living in the neutral zone. And we're going to show what happens when you do that. Okay, to do that, we're going to put some things on here. Catalyst. Catalyst is an action that initiates an experience. Okay, catalyst has ambiguous, too many, and obscure side effects. Okay, again, here, on either path, negative or positive, if you polarize strongly enough, you can manifest anything you want in your life. You can manifest physical healing, you can manifest material power, anything you want, on both sides. Okay, so here what happens is an action has ambiguous, obscure side effects, because what you're doing is you're living part of your life in the positive, part of your life in the negative, and we'll go over that in a little more in detail. But so you're having ambiguous manifestations. You may have something that manifests that you think is good, but it has a negative side effect. Okay, and one of the examples of this might be you want more money, so you manifest a new job, but you like it less. Okay, or here's another really obscure one. Say you got in a fender bender with somebody and you fell in love with them. Okay, now that's ambiguous manifestation. You had a negative consequence, and a positive consequence. Okay, so on this one, you're an energy yo-yo. And guess what? You're conflictive. Because you're afraid to manifest because of what your experiences have been. You become manifest gun shy. You're like, oh, I've had a lot of experiences and they don't always work out the way I want them to. This is this world right here. Okay, and the heart is, guess what? Open and closed. It goes back and forth. All right. Now, we got a lot more to enter on this chart, but I'm going to write down this one because this is the key word of the day. Manifestation. You got energy in. You're programming your thoughts and actions with polarity, and then that takes you down one of these paths, and that's how you end up where you are today. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now let's talk about what you have to do besides learn control dramas that keep you on the negative side. Any of these that I list here will pull you negative. And some people can imagine them. Let's talk about hate, anger, anxiety, jealousy. I mean, this goes on and on, this list. Fear, lying, cheating, stealing. I mean, these are pretty basic, you can see. Stress, greed, arguing, deception, competition. All right. So any one of these actions or emotions will pull you negative. All right. On the other side, we've got compassion, giving. You could say giving is more positive, helping somebody. We've got responsibility for your actions. We've got honesty and integrity. Okay. I'm sure you could think of a lot of other ones, but those are the pretty obvious ones. So, I guess if you had to pick a list of what you'd prefer to do, most people in the room would probably pick this one. However, we have all experienced these and some people do on a daily and sometimes even a more frequent level than that even. Okay, so let's say this line is negative, so it's negative polarity. And this line is positive polarity. All right, so during the day, during a week, during a year, it's different for everybody. But what often happens is 1 minute you're saying, I love you to somebody, and the next minute you're swearing at the driver in the next lane. Let's make this the neutral line. All right. You have a good day at work, or you had a good experience, and of course then you had something that didn't really work out for you, and it pulls you into fear or stress. Okay? So this is what happens. Now this can be, some people can stay up here for different periods of time. Maybe it looks more like this. But you get the picture. Every time you cross the neutral zone, you're living in chaos. Now, even if you live on one side of the neutral zone or the other for a period of time, if you're crossing the neutral zone, you are going to experience this. Now let's fill in these boxes here real quick. I want you to put in the first letter of each word here. So we got A, P, I, and I. So on the negative path, it's a pie, because everybody wants a piece of you. Okay? On the positive path, let's fill in those ones. We got L, A, U, G, H. We got laugh. Little acronym. Not acronym, but anyway, if you reorganize these last four words, you can say a hug, just for fun. In the middle, anybody filled that out yet? You have chaos. Unfortunately, from my experience, it appears that 90% of the world lives in chaos, because they haven't learned how to manifest what they want in life, either on the positive or negative path. They didn't know there was an importance to the choice. They didn't know there was a choice. They didn't know they were making the choice by every action they were taking. And ultimately, they're manifesting, in a lot of cases, not enough money to survive, not enough health to feel good, bad relationships, and you name it. You can imagine. And then most of you can look around and say, how many people have a totally positive life and are able to manifest whatever they want? And you probably all know people on this negative path who are able to manifest wealth and power. Doesn't mean they're happy. This is not necessarily about happiness. You can achieve happiness on either path. If you were to say, okay, who are some of the people on the negative side versus the positive side? Well, on the positive side, I could say, Abraham Lincoln, Jesus, maybe Gandhi, Buddha, who knows? I'm sure there are a lot more people than that. I might even put somebody like Paul Newman on there. I mean, he's got Newman's Own. He does a lot for charity. I would say he's a pretty powerful, positive person. He's been able to manifest, and I would say it was some on that path. On this path, of course, you can tell. I mean, you can say start with Genghis Khan. You can say Hitler. It doesn't mean that they're going to live forever or live the life as long as somebody else might, but they manifest it. Power, wealth. Maybe they didn't manifest health. It doesn't talk. This is not completely about balance. After all, they have their heart chakra closed on this side, so they can't be completely in balance, but they can still manifest great things if you polarize one way or the other. And you can see that this is pretty much how governments operate in corporations, and which is, the more controlling ones tend to be more wealthy and more powerful. Okay. Let's talk about some of the details of this. One of the things on the service to self side is, and again, the pyramid structure, the person at the top obviously controls the people right directly underneath them. He teaches them how to control. They further teach the people below them how to control. But he never teaches them enough to reach his level of control. He always keeps them subservient. He has to. This is also why some people always have to have somebody around them. If you have full release, you'll feel completely comfortable being alone. A controlling person always has to have people around them to make them feel good, because they have to take energy at all times to feel good, to feel healthy. Okay, so let's talk about every experience has polarity. We talked about that. Let's talk about some of the things that people don't pay attention to that has impact on you. Let's talk about music, the lyrics versus the melody, impact on the subconscious mind and the programming. Well, you know, most people have their own preference to music. Oftentimes it has to do with what chakra it triggers. Bassy music will be the lower chakras. The higher tones will be the higher chakras. So some people are attracted to music based on what their chakras need. Okay, and that's again the melody and not the lyrics. The lyrics, unfortunately, often go unnoticed. And that's a real tragedy. Because if you listen to some of the words in these songs, I mean, they talk about terrible things in people's lives, and that's programming. And people don't like to think about the subliminal programming that we get every day from the TV and from the exposures, the news, and things of that. But music, being something that most people like and find comfort with it, I would say pay attention. Because I found that some music that I thought I liked, and I listened to the words, I said, enough of that. You know, I don't need that kind of programming. Again, we're talking about moving to one side or the other. So making choices on everything you think and act is important. That's how you polarize yourself, one way or the other. So if you recognize, and again, it's down to the awareness. If you recognize something is good or bad for you and the polarity that you want to achieve, and again, I'm not biased. I mean, it doesn't matter to the universe which side you take. It's not important. The point is that if you don't choose, then you live here. And most people are making that choice without knowing it. Because just based on their thoughts and actions, they are making a choice of where they live, what side they live on. So, again, so pay attention to the lyrics and the melody. I mean, some music is more calming than others. I think everybody could agree that they've heard music that puts them at peace and other music that makes them agitated. Pay attention. Make a choice. Determine what you want to listen to. Okay, news, media, and experiences. We talked about that. You become that which you're exposed to. Again, programming. Your energy, your consciousness is being programmed every minute of the day, every minute, every second of the day. So it makes sense that if you're going to be exposed to news, which is fear-based and hate-based, then you're going to have those kinds of things programmed. And so the real question is do you really need to listen to the news, or is there another form of news that makes more sense for your polarity? Your choice in polarity, I should say. What you put out is returned tenfold. I think we all have heard that before. So that's part of manifestation, is what you're putting out is coming back to you. Manifestation and demanifestation, the positive, negative, universal laws. Okay, so as you change, you will manifest based on where you're changing into, negative or positive. And you will demanifest those things that no longer fit your polarity. In other words, as you move to one side or the other, you'll find that new things come into your life, which are more in that realm of polarity, and things that didn't work and that you're letting go of will disappear from your life. And that letting go is a process, and we'll talk about that in some of the other workshops. The biggest challenge, however, is getting out of this neutral zone, or even if you're close to it, which most people are, moving in the direction. Because to do this, you have to learn a lot of tools. Because you're going to be going into the unknown for most people, to rely on total release. And we've been trained throughout our lives how to be controlling and how to be fearful. So you got to let go of what you're used to your entire life and move into something you're not used to. And I can tell you from experience, it can be interesting. And a challenge for some people. I would say it was a challenge for me. I didn't have this to start with, though. So let's say that you guys have a leg up on my experiences and the fact that I had to go through this and learn every step of the way. I didn't have any tools. I had to develop the tools. And so it could be a little less of a challenge for some people nowadays. Okay. Importance of polarity for visualization, evolution, and visions and dreams. Again, your ability to visualize your future or what you'd like in your future in your dreams. You will have dreams that will help you make this choice, as well as learn from your experiences. And we'll talk about that a little later in the other workshops. But the importance to polarity, if you're having negative dreams, well, it's important, again, to be aware of them and understand them. And we'll tell you how to do that. Okay, wealth, health, fulfillment, negative versus positive. We already talked about that. You can do anything on either level. Love or control without wisdom. Okay. Unfortunately, if you just have an open heart and you're trying to release, if you don't have wisdom, this path will not work. The wisdom is necessary not to be manipulated by the negative forces. Okay, without wisdom, you will never be able to maintain this state, which is why you've heard the concept, somebody wearing their heart on their sleeve and gets stomped on. Okay? It's very important. And the wisdom comes from the understanding on this side. Okay? And you can have wisdom on both sides. But I'm focusing on the positive. I hope everybody realizes that. You know, again, this chart by itself could teach people how to control. Okay, but we're going to be focusing on how to move in this direction. So, wisdom is necessary to maintain this side. And you could say wisdom comes with growth and healing. And what you're going to find is that awareness, you could say, awareness comes from knowledge. I mean, you read a book, you become aware of a subject. So, you could say, okay, I read a book, I became aware of it. Without the understanding, you don't have the growth and the healing from that information. And you also don't achieve the wisdom. All right, so wisdom is necessary to maintain and also accelerate your growth. The infinite paradox. Everything in the universe exists in a paradox. I've learned this. Light and the dark. Okay, we wouldn't be desiring to move into the positive side if we hadn't experienced the negative side. So it's absolutely necessary at this level of our evolution to experience negative actions so that we can make a choice to move positive. You know, saving the whales, saving the trees, saving the rainforests. All of these are based on depletion and control of those resources. Okay, so paradoxes provide challenge and catalysts and induces growth and expansion of consciousness. Often feels forced until we understand the process. In other words, people oftentimes are using control. How about Greenpeace? I mean, they're trying to save the whales, but they're out there in front of the harpoons. I mean, this is, as much as they're doing something which most people would think is really good, they're actually using control to do that. It's a different level of understanding than what I would say, and we'll go into that in more detail. But there's a lot of things in life where you can see this happening. People chaining themselves to a tree so they don't get cut down. This is not release. Okay, and we'll talk about, again, much more of that in the next session about breaking control dramas. Okay, so let's talk about what we're trying to heal. We're trying to heal our present life experiences, our traumas, our pains. If you think about it, the healing is not complete. And we'll go over that in more detail, too. In other words, if you think about a painful experience that you've had in your life, then you have not healed over it. Okay? So, guess what? You're hanging on to this side. Okay? Because you haven't learned how to release because you don't understand it yet. And we're going to get into all that. You're aware of it because you had the thought. But until you understand it, the healing doesn't occur. And that's why people get pulled into the neutral zone. Okay. Past life karma. we're looking to heal that, and some people may know some of what their past life karma is that they're trying to heal. Other people don't. Not important today, especially. You're looking to heal the physical and emotional lessons brought forward. You got your physical, mental, spiritual, material balance. Again, the physical is a temple of the soul. Obviously, having a more healthy physical body helps your polarity, obviously, because that's one of the aspects of balance, but also it helps you feel better, and it helps you think more clearly, and your emotional state's generally better when you have a healthy physical body. So, just the physical body is a temple of the soul. There is also a cycle to the healing process, and what you'll find is that people spiral in either direction, and you've probably seen that. They start on a process of control, and it just spirals into more and more control, and they start on a process of positive polarity or healing, and it just spirals and spirals, because as you grow and as your balance changes, you will then manifest the similar exponential changes. So the further you move this way, the faster it can happen, so it's exponential. Once you get moving this direction, and you can release high enough, then it can very rapidly grow, is my point. Okay, attempts to heal only one of the aspects of balance. Obviously, attempts to only heal the mind, body, or spirit, or just your material side is, unfortunately, what most people focus on. I need more money, and they don't take time to learn the spiritual side of it or to deal with their emotional state because their focus is on money. And I pick that as because it's more common than most, it seems. Some people are focused on the healing manifestation, manifesting healing, and then all of a sudden they don't have the money to pay for it because they haven't learned how to manifest material wealth. So they suffer and stay suffering because they can't take the time or have the money to help their healing issues. Okay, so obviously you want to work on all aspects of balance simultaneously. It doesn't always happen that you're going to be working on your physical health at the same time you're working on your spiritual health, but it is a process by which you enhance your spiritual balance, and then all of a sudden there are things that you can do for your physical balance which come as part of that manifestation. So these are just a few of the things that we're trying to heal. Okay, we're trying to heal our fear of death. Okay, the fear of death is the only true fear. Every other fear is based on that. In other words, the fear of poverty. Why do we fear not having money? We fear that we're not going to have a place to live, we're not going to have food to eat, and we're going to die. Okay, that's what material wealth is all about. That's the fear of not having money. Okay, the fear of abandonment. Again, the fear of abandonment. You don't have anybody around. Imagine if you're the only person on the planet. I mean, they made shows about this in the old days, black and white. and they don't want to live because it feels so destitute. You can't talk to anybody. So if you're the only person, the feeling of isolation is often very close to the feeling for somebody to perceptualize the feeling of death. Okay? And again, loss of love, same thing. You're alone. You don't have that partner that made you feel whole. You feel depressed and you don't want to live anymore. So those are very common issues that people have when they get close and when they get put into a severe state of fear. Okay, fear will slow or stop your growth and your ability to achieve fulfillment and your core freedom. Well, that's no doubt because your fears are going to block you from releasing and letting go of the things that are making you fearful. Okay, loss of love for self is a sense of being alone. Again, loneliness is a state of mind and emotion and not a state of being. How does self-love relate to self-abuse? Okay. Everybody knows that if you love yourself, you shouldn't expose yourself to harmful things. So why do we? The answer is most people don't truly love themselves. They haven't learned how. They weren't taught. They didn't know there was a reason to love yourself. And most people don't even know the concept. They know the concept of love, but they never really think about loving themselves. So you have actions. People take greater risks. You might go skiing, which out the window here you can see the skiers. You might ski down off a cliff that's 200 feet high, or you might ski just the bunny run Well, your actions determine what kind of consequences you have towards self-love. And then you've got also, like exposures can be anything from toxic chemicals to negative people. Again, if you're exposing yourself to things that aren't bringing you in this direction, then you got to question, do you really love yourself? Okay, so that's what we're trying to heal. Inability of defining purpose in life, we're trying to heal that. Everybody would like to know their defining purpose in life, I would assume. I know I did, and I do. It's very empowering and very just a great sense. All right, physical ailments which are direct results of your emotional, spiritual trauma. We already talked about that. We'd all like to have greater physical healing. And healing is achieved by a state of wisdom that results in a greater understanding of every experience. Again, understanding results in healing. All right, that concludes the first workshop.